Good day and warm greetings to our distinguished panelists and all participants joining in from all over the world. The All India Women's Education Fund Association is privileged to host this event in partnership with the Permanent Mission of India to the United Nations, New York. We are honored to welcome the eminent panel who will present their perspectives on the CSW66 priority theme. Honorable Minister for Women and Child Development, Ms. Priti Irani, UN Under-Secretary General and UN Women Executive Director, Ms. Seema Sami Bahus, His Excellency Ambassador T.S. Tirumurthy, Her Excellency Ambassador Caroline Rodrigues Burkett, Her Excellency Ambassador Rabab Fatima, Her Excellency Ambassador Doma Shering. The devastating effect of the coronavirus on global health and economies has been very well documented. Paradoxically, the national lockdowns have witnessed a change and a return to pristine conditions in nature. The pandemic has tested the resilience of humans. Also, it has sensitized them to be more accepting of transformative concepts, of ethics, values, shared resources, productivity, distribution, and technology. During the last 2 years, we have visualized the reality of a sustainable world, and it has left us yearning for more. It has awakened a need to leave behind a beneficial legacy for coming generations. The time has come to bring climate change to every discussion table, to scrutinize what inaction could cost us, to evaluate with speed and skill women's role in ecological conservation, to inculcate mindful practices in sustainable living in each and every habitat. India is celebrating 75 years of independence, and the focus is not only on reaching the unreached, it is also on the rise of the last person. History has presented us with this unique opportunity to reassess and create businesses and initiatives where the linkage between what is good and what is right to do could result in something that is appropriate to do. To deliberate on the priority theme, the event, A World We Women and Girls Want, Lifestyle for the Environment, Life, presents ways to build back better. It is our privilege that the India Government Minister for Women and Child Development, UN Women Executive Director, and respected ambassadors of member states share policies, programs, and strategies that explore the potential for change, that present apt solutions to challenges in gendered vulnerability in climate change, that cross-cut, safeguard, and advance the Sustainable Development Goals. A short film, Lifestyles for the Environment, Life, has been produced with the support of the Permanent Mission of India to the UN. It showcases examples of women-centered movements that have embraced mindful lifestyles, used technology, and provided economic empowerment. It calls attention to the holistic nature of life on our planet. The 5 elements as per the Vedas: earth, water, fire, air, and space. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I present the film.
Change. How does it occur? There are a million different answers to the question.
Dangerously polluted air is
And the global COVID-19 pandemic has
we want change to save the planet.
We demand change, and we are the change.
But one thing that is common for all kinds of change is that they are gradual. They start in the fist-sized hearts of those few who dream.
My dream is that no person in India should die because of lack of treatment.
हमारा गांव है ना बहुत साफ स्वच्छ होना चाहिए, शिक्षित होना चाहिए.
Yeah, the ideal future will be, limitless. We'll have clean air, water, no pollution, nothing.
आज जरूरत है कि हम सभी लोग एक साथ आकर कलेक्टिव पार्टिसिपेशन के साथ लाइफस्टाइल फॉर एनवायरनमेंट यानी लाइफ को एक अभियान की तरह आगे बढ़ाएं.
You see, this dream, it's woven with the 5 strands of matter that hold the world's existence. Because when women dream, they dream of the earth's blooming colors that reach the sky. Earth, birth, and nurture.
When I was small, my mother used to tell that before you enter a forest, to say a kind word. I do have a very intimate relationship with nature, and I felt for a language that is both sensitive and can spread the right message. It's a very conflicting time for farmers in the community today because there's climate changes that is happening. They're facing shortage of water. The community is losing the touch with the soil and the nature due to the modernity seeping inside the community. This project intends to restore the relationship of the Apatanis and their relationship with the nature by remembering what they know through their oral traditions or oral knowledge system. And by giving it a shape and a form, I hope we can build a bridge towards the modernity and old ways of being.
They dream of a rain that washes away the worry lines of the whole world. Water, writing their own stories.
हमारे जीवन में पानी का तो बहुत बड़ा महत्व है. अगर पानी नहीं है तो हम भी नहीं हैं.
3 महीने हो गए तो हमारी समस्या पानी की इतनी आफत हो गई थी, हमसे मजदूरी नहीं हो पाई, हमसे कपड़े नहीं धुल पाए. तो हमने हिम्मत बढ़ाई कि चलो हम आगे बढ़कर हमारा समस्या हम ही खुद हल करेंगे. फिर हमने सब बहनों ने एक कागज लिया, सबने कोई ने साइन किया, कोई ने नहीं किया, और सब आगे बढ़कर हम बागली गए. क्या हमारा 8 दिन के भीतर 4 दिन में ही मोटर आ गए और पानी की हमको खूब खुशी हो गई.
They dream of the wind, carrying sweetness to their loved ones. Air, spreading warmth in natural disasters.
मेरा एक ड्रीम था कि मैं मेडिकल लाइन में जाऊं, पर मेरी जो फैमिली कंडीशन थी वो बहुत ख़राब थी. लेकिन जब मुझे PMKKY के बारे में पता चला कि जो JITM स्किल है, यहाँ पे पढ़ाई, फिर रूम हॉस्टल, हमारा खाना पीना सब फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट है, तो मैं इसमें जाके अपना एडमिशन ली.
As a doctor, I have never experienced a disaster like COVID-19 in my whole life. The country was in acute shortage of healthcare workers. So at that time, GITM took the challenge to skill the young women so that they can work as a COVID warrior in this pandemic.
They dream of the healing fires of their hearth. Fire, delivering light.
Over 800 million people live in 700,000 villages and did not access quality services, especially when it comes to clean energy, climate-friendly health and sanitation solutions. Frontier Markets was founded in 2011 with a mission to help ease the life of rural families across the country. We started off with clean energy products and solar solutions. Our Saro Jeevan Sahelis are digital entrepreneurs who are using our social commerce platform, the Meri Seheli app, to facilitate sales and doorstep deliveries in their villages, helping rural families truly understand why clean energy solutions were critical, what is the role of climate and solutions to help create champions for change.
They dream of the sky, reaching out and weaving itself into their skirts as it plays with the wind. Sky, the uncaged flight.
Waste is not waste until you really waste it. Okay. Fashion industry is one of the most polluted industry in the world at the moment, with so much of fabric every day getting into the landfills. What happens to those fabrics?
We're an eco-conscious fashion hub that's based out of New Delhi. By that I mean we create conscious clothing and we ensure that no shred is wasted. Not even a single thread that comes out is not thrown out. Everything is used back into the production cycle.
So in terms we're adding more value to these scraps that would have ended up into the landfill. How we do that? We make belts, earrings, patch jackets, anything and everything you want.
Because we believe in the afterlife of those scraps. We believe in reforming them, changing them, giving a new life.
In a world where we have forgotten what came before us and what will exist after us, it is them, the women, these women, who refuse to let that dream slip through the cracks, who work every day for a better world. A world where life takes priority. Change? There are a million ways in which it occurs. But the way these women do it, there's something about it, isn't there?
The panel event now commences with our eminent speakers. We are privileged to have His Excellency Ambassador T.S. Tirumurthy, Permanent Representative of India to the UN, deliver the welcome address. Ambassador Tirumurthy is a career diplomat with extensive multilateral experience. Since joining the Indian Foreign Service in 1985, he has represented India's interests in various capacities. He has been secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, handling the economic relations portfolio since February 2018, which included inter alia, India's development partnership in the Gulf and the Arab world and Africa. He has previously served at the Indian Embassy in Cairo, Egypt, and at the Permanent Mission of India in Geneva, Switzerland. He was also the first Indian representative to the Palestinian Authority in Gaza, and later counselor at the Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C., USA. He was Deputy Chief of Mission at the Indian Embassy in Jakarta and India's High Commissioner in Kuala Lumpur. He is also the author of 3 books, Kissing the Heavens, the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, Clive Avenue, and Chennai Vasi. The welcome address by His Excellency Ambassador T.S. Tirumurthy.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister Srimati Smriti Irani, Srimati Asha Chandra, President AIWEFA, Excellencies, esteemed speakers, and distinguished participants. We are delighted to partner once again All India Women's Education Fund Association, AIWEFA, in organizing today's event. We deeply appreciate the work being done by AIWEFA in the sphere of women's empowerment and gender equity. Thank you, Srimati Chandra, for your introduction and welcome remarks. We are deeply privileged to have amongst us today Her Excellency Srimati Smriti Irani, Minister of Women and Child Development of India. She has been at the forefront of change and to take forward our Prime Minister's vision of women-led development. Ma'am, your presence today is a very big encouragement to all civil societies in India determined to make this a reality. I also thank the head of the UN Women Executive Director, Seema Bahus, and all the distinguished permanent representatives and dear colleagues from Bangladesh, Guyana, and Bhutan in joining us for this very important event. I thank you all and look forward to your insights. The theme of today's event, A World We Women Want, Lifestyle for the Environment, Life, resonates with the priority theme of CSW66, focusing on women's participation in climate action. Friends, India entered the Security Council in 2021 at a time when the United Nations was celebrating its 75th anniversary. This year, we celebrate the 75th anniversary of India's independence. In our 2-year stint, we have consistently pushed for women, peace, and security, including, for example, calling for protection of women's rights in Afghanistan in the UN Security Council Resolution 2593, which was adopted under our presidency of the Council in August last year. We have been pioneers in women-led UN peacekeeping when Indian women peacekeepers went to Liberia in 2007 to lead the first ever women UN peacekeeping contingent. Indian women leaders have consistently left a mark on the UN, right from the time when Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit became the first woman president of the UN General Assembly, or when Begum Sharifa Hamid Ali joined as one of the 15 women in the first UN Commission on the Status of Women, or when Dr. Hansa Mehta changed the text of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to read, all human beings are created equal, instead of all men are created equal. Just last week, our permanent mission hosted the second Dr. Hansa Mehta Dialogue, where the first woman Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. AIWEFA, was our keynote speaker. In India, we understand that the health of people, especially of women, and the planet are interlinked. We have always lived in harmony with nature. Reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, redesign, and remanufacture have been part of India's cultural ethos. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, in his address at COP26 in Glasgow, had impressed that lifestyle plays a critical role in climate action. He therefore proposed a one-word movement, LIFE, which means lifestyle for environment. It is a vision of a resilient and sustainable lifestyle, which will be the most effective tool for us to combat climate change. This is not a slogan, but a commitment by India. The government of India is focused on formulating and implementing significant policies and initiatives which aim at promoting a holistic approach towards environmentally conscious lifestyle. These actions have become even more relevant as we combat the COVID-19 pandemic. Friends, right from the time when India and a few developing countries ensured in Rio +20 that the negotiations for the Sustainable Development Goals were done intergovernmentally in the United Nations and did not go the way the Millennium Development Goals were done, we have called for a sustainable lifestyle and holistic approach to the 3 pillars of sustainable development, namely economic, social, and environmental pillars. Gender equity is a concept that cuts across all these 3 pillars. In 2015, at the initiative of India, June 21 was proclaimed as the International Day of Yoga. Yoga promotes a holistic approach to health and well-being. To name a few national holistic life-changing policies, through the National Ayush Mission, the government is working towards establishing a holistic health model based on traditional medicine and practices. Khelo India, or National Program for Development of Sports, was launched in 2017 that emphasizes on the importance of sports and fitness. Swachh Bharat Mission, or Clean India Mission, was launched in 2014 to eliminate open defecation, improve solid waste management, and bringing about a behavior change regarding sanitation practices. Friends, India is second to none when it comes to climate action and climate justice. We have made robust and enhanced pledges in Glasgow during COP26. Prime Minister Modi's initiative of International Solar Alliance was recently granted observer status in the UN. India is also in the process of setting up the National Hydrogen Mission to tap into green hydrogen. Digital India is transforming the way services are delivered to our citizens, especially to women at the grassroots level. During the pandemic, it was the mass campaign to open bank accounts, which helped women, especially, to get cash transfers directly into their account. Equitable energy access to the poor has been a cornerstone of our environmental policy. Through the Ujjwala Yojana, the government has provided access to clean cooking fuel to over 90 million households, directly benefiting women. These and other lifestyle-changing schemes are bringing about changes in our lives. I thank once again the Honorable Minister for gracing this occasion, and allow me to conclude with a quote of Mahatma Gandhi, and I quote, "The earth, the air, the land, and the water are not an inheritance from our forefathers, but on loan from our children. There is a sufficiency in the world for man's need, but not for man's greed." I thank you once again for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Tirumurthy. It is now our honor and privilege to have the event's keynote speaker, Honorable Union Minister, Ministry of Women and Child Development, India, Ms. Smriti Zubin Irani. The Honorable Minister was elected twice to the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of the Indian Parliament, in 2011 and 2017, representing the state of Gujarat. In 2019, in the general elections, she was elected to the Lok Sabha, the House of the People or lower house of Parliament, from Amethi in the state of Uttar Pradesh. She was the Union Minister for Human Resource Development from May 2014 to July 2016, Minister for Information and Broadcasting from July 2017 to May 2018, and the Minister for Textiles from July 2016 to July 2021. Ms. Irani is India's youngest Union Cabinet Minister in the government and the first woman to hold office as the Union Minister for Human Resource Development and Union Minister for Textiles. She has significantly and successfully pursued permanent commissions for women in the Indian Army by facilitating legal aid to women officers. She has launched Saksham, the first ever vision document released by any political organization in India, which underlines policies, programs, and implementation tools for the upliftment of the differently abled in India. The World Economic Forum has named Ms. Irani as the Young Global Leader for India for the year 2015. It is my privilege and honor to request the Honorable Minister to deliver the keynote address.
Ma'am, you are muted.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Namaskar and greetings from New Delhi. It is my greatest pleasure to be amongst you today on the sidelines of the 66th Commission on the Status of Women. At the onset, I would like to congratulate the All India Women's Education Fund Association and the Permanent Mission of India to the United Nations for organizing this important event, focusing on the concept of lifestyle for environment or life in relation to women and young girls. I would also like to extend my gratitude to the UN Women Executive Director Seema Baus and the distinguished permanent representatives for Bangladesh, Guyana, and Bhutan for their kind participation. We all eagerly look forward to listening to your views with great interest. Ladies and gentlemen, on one hand, there is a growing recognition of the disproportionate impact that climate change will have on women, while on the other hand, there is rising awareness of the tremendous social, economic, and climate resilient benefits that gender equality and women's empowerment can bring to this segment. This evolution is reflected in the progress made in terms of mainstreaming gender into climate resilient promising practices. At Glasgow COP26, the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi proposed a one-word movement, life, a mass movement that influences lifestyle for environment, promoting mindful and deliberate utilization of resources instead of mindless and destructive consumption, and set goals that could revolutionize many segments such as fishing, agriculture, wellness, dietary choices, packaging, housing, hospitality, tourism, clothing, fashion, water management, and energy. Life is about making lifestyle choices to improve our planet. It aims to be a coalition of like-minded individuals across the world who will promote together sustainable lifestyles. We call them the pro-planet people. Indian traditions and culture are natural sources of inspiration for this initiative. Indians have perpetually lived in harmony with nature. Reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, redesign, and remanufacture have been a part of India's cultural and business ethos. India will continue to act in favor of climate resilient policies and practices, as has been our civilizational endeavor. Since the Stockholm Conference 50 years ago, a lot has been said on the environment, but little has been done for women in correlation to the environment. But in India, we have walked the talk. Equitable energy access has been a cornerstone of our environmental policy. Through the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, more than 90 million households have been provided access to clean cooking fuel, safeguarding women's health by providing them with clean, smokeless cooking fuel, while reducing the burden from drudgery of collecting firewood. An independent assessment recently of the scheme estimates that over 150,000 lives were saved in the year 2019 alone, a 13% reduction in air pollution deaths, while helping in avoiding at least 1.8 million tons of PM 2.5 emissions in the same year. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, agriculture is another instance where climate change will exacerbate the existing barriers faced by female farmers. Women comprise over 60% of the agricultural workforce and play a critical role in supporting household and community food security and nutrition needs. Cognizant of the fact that women are more easily trapped in a downward spiral in the absence of concerted efforts to close the gender gap in access to productive resources for climate resilient agriculture, the Government of India has taken steps in targeted outreach, and special provisions have been made for women engaged in agriculture by investing in climate resilient infrastructure, assets, and adoption of new farming practices, including women's increased access to long-term affordable finance and agricultural extension services. Under the Pradhan Mantri Kusum scheme, we are in the Government of India encouraging farmers to set up solar panels and sell surplus power to the grid. Standalone solar pumps, as well as efforts for solarizing existing pumps, are being scaled up. We are focusing on chemical-free natural farming that will also help promote sustainability and equity. The National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture makes agriculture more productive, sustainable, remunerative, and climate resilient by promoting location-specific, integrated, and composite farming systems. India, with its rich and diverse culture, has many examples of women who have been and continue to engage in climate-resilient agriculture and are custodians of rich indigenous knowledge. They do organic farming for sustainable development, including preservation of traditional seeds, maintaining seed banks, and practicing diversified cropping patterns, make and use organic manure and biopesticides that promote ecological agriculture and preserve our biodiversity. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, India is investing over $6.67 billion in this financial year alone under the flagship scheme of the Honorable Prime Minister named the Jal Jeevan Mission. It is a bold ambition to provide safe and adequate drinking water by the year 2024 to all households in rural India. Ingrained in sustainability measures, this mission is enabling water conservation, recharge and reuse through grey water management, rainwater harvesting, and engages with the community at large to influence behavioral change and responsible usage of water. While women are the largest beneficiaries of the Jal Jeevan Mission, they also have been placed in key leadership positions to ensure timely implementation of the scheme and monitoring of the scheme at the grassroots level. Women constitute 50% of the members of the water and sanitation committees in India and have been appointed as Jal Sakhis, who are trained to check the quality of water in our communities. India has brought about reforms that are helping the world navigate through climate emergency. The world recognizes the use and adoption of solar power as the key element of the global action on climate. India has taken the revolutionary step of announcing the formation of the International Solar Alliance and has created a coalition for disaster-resilient infrastructure for climate adaptation. This is a sensitive and vital initiative to save millions of lives across the world. As a part of taking this change to the Indian grassroots, the Government of India is revamping our Anganwadi centers, the world's largest community-based programs that aims to holistically address health, nutrition, and educational needs of our children and future mothers. Smart Anganwadis, as we call them now, are solar-powered community centers to improve service delivery and host a range of basic services and activities for our underserved communities. This serves a three-way purpose: continued and efficient service delivery of basic necessities to women and children in our communities, raising awareness about clean energy and its direct welfare impact on women and children, and promoting female entrepreneurs in the renewable sector to support installation and management of clean energy interventions. Further, the ecosystem for female entrepreneurship and participation in the energy value chain is also being strengthened by the Government of India. From sustainable and biodegradable menstrual hygiene products to sustainable fashion and circular economy, female entrepreneurs are leading in innovating for sustainable solutions. We are also seeing solar systems which are being used to run solar water purification plants, mobile charging stations, and selling of dried agri-produce like mushrooms and gooseberry, enabling creation of micro-enterprises across the rural landscape by women in India. Our electric vehicle strategies is at the core of reducing carbon footprint, in which women play a significant part in our industry, from data analysis, simulation, engineering redesign, validation, mobility solution, and disruptive technology processes. India is home to the world's largest all-women-run e-scooter factory, which currently employs over 10,000 women. India is also at the forefront of protecting ecology. With 2.4% of the world's land area, India accounts for nearly 8% of the world's species. We are strengthening our protected area network, and our efforts have been recognized by the IUCN. India now has 49 Ramsar sites spread over more than 1 million hectares. Restoring degraded land has been one of our main focus areas, and since 2015, we in India have restored more than 11.5 million hectares. Ladies and gentlemen, in India, from Gaura Devi, who led the Chipko movement in 1974, organizing women to hug trees so that they can be prevented from being cut, to Tulsi Gowda, a tribal female environmentalist who has planted over 30,000 saplings over the past 60 years, India is home to numerous women who are leading India's equitable and inclusive actions for a sustainable tomorrow. India firmly believes in fulfilling all our commitments made under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. We are proud that India's per capita carbon footprint is 60% lower than the global average. We have raised our ambition during COP26 at Glasgow. However, environmental sustainability can only be achieved through climate justice. And we would all agree that successful climate action also needs adequate financing. We must work towards the aim of one sun, one world, one grid to ensure availability of clean energy from a worldwide grid everywhere at all times. This is the whole of the world holistic approach that India values and stands for. Together with the International Solar Alliance and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, LIFE forms part of the trinity of our environment efforts for improving the global commons. Allow me to quote and close by invoking the name of my Prime Minister and the guiding mantra that he gives, that Sanyam, restraint, and Sankalp, namely determination, are the two key principles behind India's commitment to gender-responsive climate action for an equitable, inclusive, and sustainable tomorrow. Women are and will continue to be an indispensable part of India's sustainable growth journey, a journey which enables a world we women and our girls want, a lifetime commitment to sustainability, an Indian journey which ensures life becomes a global priority. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for such a comprehensive, informative address on sustainability that India has tread the path. We are delighted and honored to present the event's keynote speaker, UN Under-Secretary General and Executive Director, UN Women, Ms. Seema Sami Bahous. Ms. Bahous became UN Women's third Executive Director on 30th September 2021. A champion for women and girls, gender equality and youth empowerment, she is a keen advocate for quality education, poverty alleviation, and inclusive governance. She brings to the position more than 35 years of leadership at the grassroots, national, regional, and international levels, coupled with expertise in advancing women's empowerment and rights, addressing discrimination and violence, and promoting sustainable socio-economic development towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Ms. Bahous most recently served as permanent representative of Jordan to the United Nations in New York. Prior to this position, she served as Assistant Administrator and Director of the Regional Bureau for Arab States at the United Nations Development Program, and Assistant Secretary General and Head of the Social Development Sector at the League of Arab States from 2008 to 2012. Ms. Bahous holds a PhD in Mass Communications and Development, a Master of Arts in Literature and Drama, Bachelor of Arts in English Literature. Ms. Bahous is unable to join us today. She has shared a video recording of her message to be played at this event. May we please have the message?
Excellencies, partners, around the world, climate change is making extreme weather events more frequent, destroying lives, homes, and businesses. As with all crises, climate change exacts its highest price from women and girls, especially from those who are already being left behind. In India, where women comprise more than 60% of the country's agricultural workforce, the effects of climate change threaten not only harvests but women's incomes. Climate change can also cause girls to drop out of school or be forced into early marriage by increasing the time required for them to collect firewood and water. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction recognize the gendered impacts of climate change. Yet, women also hold climate solutions as agents of change. Women offer valuable insights and solutions into better managing the climate and its risks as early adopters of new agricultural techniques, first responders in crisis, entrepreneurs of green energy, and decision makers at home. In India, women play a critical role in supporting household and community food security and nutrition. Research shows us that women's political empowerment is strongly linked to better environmental outcomes, including the creation of more protected land areas, the ratification of environmental treaties, stricter climate change policies, and smaller climate footprints. As we move towards a green economy, we need more women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics so that women can drive green innovations for the future. UN Women recognizes the importance of bringing women to the decision-making table on issues of climate. For example, we provided technical support throughout the process of developing the first ever gender action plan to support gender-responsive climate change action, which was adopted at COP23 in Paris. UN Women also works with countries to integrate a gender lens at all levels and to put women at the center of climate action. In India, we fully support solar-powered Angawadi centers, which offer basic services to underserved women and children in communities. The program also raises awareness about clean energy and its impact on women and children and promotes women entrepreneurs in the renewable sector. I look forward to more collaboration as we work to urgently invest in climate action by and for women and girls. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bahus. It is now our privilege and pleasure to present the event's special address by Her Excellency, Ambassador Ms. Caroline Rodrigues Burkett, Permanent Representative of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana to the United Nations, New York. Her Excellency has held this position since October 2020. She was the director of the Liaison Office of the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, of the United Nations, Geneva, from 2017 to September 2020. From 2015 to 2017, Her Excellency was also holding the position of Special Coordinator of Parliamentary Alliances of the FAO, United Nations. As a successful career diplomat, Her Excellency was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade and International Cooperation, Government of Guyana from 2008 to 15, and Minister of Amerindian Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, Government of Guyana from 2001 to 2008. Her Excellency holds a degree in social work from the University of Guyana. The special address by Her Excellency Ambassador Caroline Rodrigues Burkett.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, Honorable Minister Srimurti, Ambassador Srimurti Rabab and Sharing, and of course our Chairperson, Ms. Asha Chandra, Executive Director of UN Women, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen all. Let me begin by thanking Ambassador Tirumurti and the All India Women's Education Fund Association for their kind invitation to address this event on A World We Women and Girls Want, Lifestyle for the Environment, Life. At the outset, I would say that we women and girls want a world where we have equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal access to resources. A world free of violence and one where women and girls can thrive in an environment fit for this and future generations. Unfortunately, we are still far away from having such a world. Political power remains largely in the hands of men. 87% of our leaders are men. Our parliaments are controlled by men, 75% of all parliamentarians, and commerce is dominated by men. Around 71% of all managers are men. On top of that, violence against women continues to permeate many societies, and climate change impacts and the pandemic continue to exacerbate the situation for women. But there is also good news. Several countries have made significant progress in the advancement of women and girls, and Minister has outlined very eloquently the progress made in India. Awareness is high, and events such as these allow us to share experiences on how we could scale up best practices and overcome the challenges before us. I would therefore like to share with you briefly what Guyana has been doing, and in the interest of time, I've chosen 4 areas. Firstly, education. There is no substitute for education in creating the world we women and girls want. In Guyana, we do not discriminate against women and girls in education. Both the right to education and the access to education are applied on equal footing. Indeed, we have a unique challenge, both in Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean, where more girls are completing their secondary education compared to boys. Additionally, more women are graduating from university, and our women and girls are taking the top spots at every level of the formal education system. We recognize, however, that there are certain gaps in some rural and indigenous communities. It is these communities that are more likely to be left behind without specific interventions. As such, given the small size of the communities and the extended distances between them, we have established secondary schools at strategic locations along with dormitories that are fully funded by the government. This has significantly increased access to education and brought us closer to achieving universal secondary education. The second area I would like to touch on briefly is that of economic empowerment. Economic empowerment, as we all know, is a key determinant of gender equality. As such, when we speak of education and women, it is not only about academics, but also vocational training in various fields, including non-traditional ones. We have therefore introduced in Guyana several programs for women to accumulate skills that can help them in securing their economic independence. For example, we have a program named the Women's Innovation and Investment Network, WIN, where women are trained in several areas, many non-traditional areas, including information technology and business administration. There are no pre-admission requirements as we strive to meet women wherever they are. We have also introduced a business incubator for women and an app where women can advertise their business. And more than 700 women-owned business have used this app thus far. Last year, of the 10,000 house lots distributed for Guyanese to build their homes, 40% of these were to women in their own right. I have mentioned that more women are graduating from university, and we also know that in some subsectors of the private sector, there are more women employees. However, we are not seeing women in the upper echelons of the private sector. As we seek to create opportunities for more women to be economically empowered, it is critical to have women at the decision-making table. This is not only because it is the right thing to do, but more than likely, women will be looking out for the needs of other women in their decision-making. Thirdly, I'd speak about political empowerment. There is no power like political power. At least that's what I believe. It is where the power to approve laws, policies, and programs for the development of a country exists. This is why we need gender equality at this premier decision-making table. In Guyana, women form the backbone of the major political parties, but traditionally the great majority were in the background. We introduced a quota system where political parties are required to have 1/3 women on their lists, even though they are not required by law to have 1/3 of the seats gained being occupied by women. However, presently we have approximately 30% of women from both major parties in parliament, which represents a good effort by the political parties to keep at least 1/3 of their members of parliament being women. But parity means 50-50, and we need to get there. We are working to get there. And finally, on women and climate change. Guyana has mainstreamed women and girls in climate action. We have launched our Low Carbon Development Strategy 2030, building on the successes of the first Low Carbon Development Strategy of 2009, which saw significant benefits for women and girls. Programs include micro and small enterprises for women. Loans were provided for businesses in low carbon sectors, and 62% of the beneficiaries were women. We also provided training, including in climate smart agriculture and sustainable forestry, among others. Some of the funding was also set aside for our Indigenous Peoples Fund, called the Amerindian Development Fund, which helped to boost the village economies. And again, the majority of jobs went to women. I should note that in Guyana, Indigenous peoples own 14% of the total land in Guyana and are leaders in fighting against climate change. It has been shown too that the disproportionate impact of climate change on women is on account of the lack of connectivity and access to information and services. As such, the LCDS 2030 will help to bridge the digital gaps which exist for many Indigenous communities in a gender-responsive manner. Through this project, 200, ICT hubs powered by solar panels will be established in remote communities. This will bring over 200 government public services to the people in these villages and transform the way in which women and girls access services and business opportunities. Women and girls, as I said, are leading when it comes to climate solutions in Guyana. One example is armed with drone technology. They are leading the way in monitoring the very resources that are key to climate action, nature. Colleagues, friends, excellencies, I attempted to bring a brief snapshot of some of our efforts in Guyana as we seek to create the world we want. My own view is that our women have made significant strides in my country, but the journey continues. It is not good enough to sing the praises that our girls outperform their male counterparts in the education sphere, that our women are the backbone of political parties, or that they form the majority in some specific sectors of the private sector, when they're still a minority at the leadership and decision-making levels. And so our efforts continue. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. To deliver the event's special address, it is our honor and privilege to invite Her Excellency, Ms. Rabab Fatima, Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Bangladesh to the United Nations, New York. Her Excellency was appointed to this position in December 2019. Ambassador Rabab Fatima is a career diplomat and was Bangladesh's ambassador to Japan from 2016 to 2019. In a diplomatic career spanning over 3 decades, she has served in various positions in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and in Bangladesh missions abroad, including in the permanent missions in New York, Geneva, and in Kolkata and Beijing. Besides, she has served in Lyon with the Commonwealth Secretariat, London. She has been head of human rights 2006 to 7 and with the International Organization for Migration as the regional representative for South Asia from 2007 to 2011, and as the regional advisor for South and Southwest Asia. She has been regional advisor for climate change and migration from 2012 to 2015. Her Excellency is currently serving as the president of the executive board of UN Women, the UN entity for gender equality and empowerment of women, UN Women. She is also the vice president of the 76th session of the UN General Assembly. In her outstanding diplomatic career, she has also served in senior positions in the Commonwealth Secretariat and the International Organization for Migration. The special address by Her Excellency Ambassador Rabab Fatima.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for a very kind introduction. Honorable Minister, Excellencies, Madam Chairperson, distinguished colleagues and friends, I thank the Permanent Mission of India and the All India Women's Education Fund Association for organizing today's event. It is an honor to join the Honorable Minister, Madam Sriti Zubin Irani, in today's discussion and to listen to her inspiring keynote address. I congratulate the Honorable Minister for her leadership and for serving as such a strong role model. I'm also very pleased to join my good friends, Ambassador Seema Bahus, the Executive Director of UN Women, and Ambassadors Caroline Rodriguez-Burkett and Ambassador Doma Shering today. And it is always a pleasure to partner with Ambassador Tirumurti. We share a common vision and aspiration here in the United Nations on women's empowerment and climate change, among others. Excellencies, dear friends, the focus of today's meeting, Lifestyle for Environment for Women and Girls, is very timely and resonates with CSW's theme this year. I commend AIWEFA for its active engagement to promote an environment-friendly life for women and girls, and I take this opportunity to congratulate them for their outstanding work for women and girls for the past 9 decades. Excellencies, the vital contribution of women to economic and social development is undeniable, yet they continue to face cultural and institutional barriers in most societies. Their participation in decision-making processes remain far from equal. The pandemic and the ongoing climate crisis have made things worse. We are seeing a reversal of hard-won development gains made over the past decades. Excellencies, dear friends, climate change and gender equality are interlinked. Women and girls are disproportionately impacted by the negative effects of climate change and environmental degradation. Existing data shows that 80% of people displaced by climate change and related disasters are women and girls. Yet they are also the earliest responders when disaster strikes. Fighting against climate change for years, they have developed knowledge and understanding of what is needed to adapt to the changing climate and environmental impacts. Women have an intimate relationship with nature. The IPCC Working Group 2's 6th assessment report shows that women are not only victims of climate change, but also proactive adaptation actors. Thus, unleashing fully their knowledge and capability can unlock many effective and practical ways and means to climate change solutions for the benefit of all. Climate action thus cannot be successful or sustainable if it does not involve women. Excellencies, for that, we must ensure gender-responsive legal and policy frameworks and remove the structural barriers to strengthen women's access to and ownership of natural resources, access to opportunities, to education and technologies, to advance their participation and leadership in adaptation, mitigation, and resilience building. In the interest of time, I shall focus my intervention on some of the policy responses that Bangladesh has undertaken on gender-responsive climate action. Firstly, gender dimensions form an integral part of all our national policies and strategies, including of those related to climate and environment. Gender has been included as a separate thematic priority in our climate change strategy and action plan 2009. We were one of the first countries to adopt a standalone action plan on climate change and gender, back in 2013. Under this plan, a separate gender guideline is being developed to regulate funding of the projects under the Climate Change Trust Fund. 75% of resources spent on climate change and adaptation initiatives comes directly from our own resources. Secondly, we have ensured gender equality in disaster risk reduction. Cyclone preparedness programs is a good example in this regard. Currently, 38,000 women are working as volunteers under this program, representing transformational changes in women's leadership and capacity. This program has recently received a prestigious public service award from the UN for ensuring gender equality. Thirdly, our Ministry of Women and Children Affairs is currently implementing two major projects, and I'm just mentioning these two projects. One is a gender responsive coastal adaptation project, and the other is a national resilience program. These projects are aimed at enhancing the adaptive capacities of women in coastal and other climate vulnerable areas to cope with climate-induced challenges and by creating resilient, cost-efficient, and gender-responsive livelihood options, among others, for them. Among other initiatives, dear colleagues, we have the social forestry program, which ensures up to 50% of benefits to women. Over 4.5 million improved cooking stoves have been distributed in the rural households to reduce women's health hazards as well as carbon emission. More than 6 million solar home systems have been established in the off-grid remote areas across the country. And women, especially the most vulnerable ones, are given priority in all these programs. Similar support is provided in the agriculture sector. Dear friends, these are a few examples of the innovative, locally generated solutions to tackle climate change and environmental degradation by women. And I'm very pleased to see that there are many commonalities in the programs in our region, when I heard from the minister also today. It shows that our region is taking the lead when it comes to gender responsive climate action. Excellencies, climate change is a global issue. No single country or region can tackle this challenge alone. As such, the efforts of individual countries to ensure women's equal voice in climate discourse is never going to be enough. We must promote gender equal policies on climate change and environmental disaster risk reduction at the global level, supported by adequate funding, which remains up until now woefully unmet. Excellencies, empowerment of women and girls is a shared responsibility, and the society as a whole benefit when women are empowered, when they can meaningfully contribute to their full potential for the benefit of their families, communities, and their nation. We must therefore adopt a whole of government and whole of society approach to put gender issues at the center of every policy decision. Let me conclude by reminding that the ongoing pandemic has exacerbated the situation for women, as its impact has been disproportionately harsh on them. Violence against women and girls has seen a sharp rise. School closures have forced nearly 750 million girls to stay home, leading to growing incidents of child and early marriages and also child labor. Thus, alongside climate action, it is critical now to place women and girls at the front and center of recovery and response plans and build effective partnership and collaboration to support women affected by the pandemic at every level as well. I shall rest it here, dear colleagues, and I thank you once again for inviting me at this inspiring program and for this opportunity to share a few thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We are privileged and fortunate to have the event's special address delivered by the distinguished permanent representative of the Kingdom of Bhutan to the United Nations, New York, Her Excellency Ambassador Ms. Doma Shering. Her Excellency has held this position since September 2017 and is concurrently accredited as Bhutan's ambassador to Canada and to Brazil. Ambassador Shering is a career diplomat who joined the Bhutanese Foreign Service in 1991. While at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Thimphu, she served as director of the Department of Multilateral Affairs, previously having headed the Policy Planning Division as well as the Europe and Americas Division. She has also served in various capacities at the Permanent Mission of Bhutan to the UN in Geneva and earlier in New York. The special address by Excellency Ambassador Ms. Doma Shering.
Thank you, Ms. Asha Chandra, for the kind introduction. Madam Minister of Women and Child Development of India, Shrimati Zubinirani, my good friends, Ambassador Tirumurti, Ambassador Fatima Rabab, Ambassador Rodriguez Burkett, Undersecretary General and ED of UN Women, Excellencies, dear friends. Allow me to start by thanking the Permanent Mission of India and the All India Women's Education Fund Association for your leadership and for bringing us together to share thoughts on this very important subject, a world we women and girls want, lifestyle for the environment. As a country that is already carbon negative and had committed as early as the 2009 COP15 in Copenhagen to remain carbon neutral for all time to come, for Bhutan, the focus of our discussion this morning could not be more relevant nor urgent. This side event enriches deliberations around the focus theme of the 66th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. It takes place against the backdrop of the triple crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, even as much of the global community struggles to emerge and recover from the devastating impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The convergence of these phenomena move us to question whether we as individuals, in our relentless pursuit of production and consumption, are pushing the limits of planetary boundaries too far. Excellencies, friends, climate change remains a global challenge that burdens all of humanity, but not equally, with women and girls disproportionately affected. The same holds true in Bhutan, where gender differences are visible with respect to climate change vulnerability and in diverse levels of benefit sharing. A 2020 study on gender and climate change in Bhutan found that rural women are more vulnerable than men to effects of climate change, including when climate-induced disasters hit. A relatively higher proportion of women reported a decrease in household income, as well as changes in household food habits and in the natural resources they depend on. About half of the respondents agreed that climate change increases women's workload more than that of men's, and that climate change impacts women more than men. Climate change exacerbates challenges faced in the agriculture sector. While half the farming population in Bhutan are women, feminization of agriculture is taking place due to men out-migration. Ironically, we face a paradox where women have access to land, but less control than men over its use. Transport, as the most prominent GHG emitter in the energy sector, is not gender neutral. Overall, women have inferior access to transportation compared to men. Personal safety while using public transportation is a concern, both for passengers and female taxi drivers. With increasing amounts of solid waste, emissions from waste disposal and wastewater treatment and discharge forms a small but an increasing contributor to GHG emissions. The gender gap in the waste sector is significant in terms of division of labor, power structures, payment, access to information, and equipment. When considering the multifaceted gender dimension of the impacts of climate change in Bhutan, one cannot help but realize that as elsewhere, women and girls hold the keys to addressing such challenges. Most of our climate actions begin at the household level, where women and girls have dominant roles. Women, besides protecting our planet, actively engage in raising awareness in their respective households and broader communities. Women are the main managers of household waste, especially in prevention, minimization, reuse and recycling, often in informal settings, and are also active as small entrepreneurs. Women are powerful forces for change if we let them participate. No country or society can reach its full potential with this exclusion, and tackling the global climate crisis and better disaster risk preparedness will otherwise remain elusive. I think of Karma, who heads an association of 150 women who manufacture and sell environmentally friendly bags, baskets, and accessories made from recycled plastic waste. Supported by Tarayana Foundation, Karma is a powerful advocate for better waste management in the community, while at the same time generates employment and supplementary income for rural women. Thoughts also turn to a small-scale, eco-friendly enterprise called Doriri, supported by the Loden Foundation and UNDP. They manufacture reusable cloth baby diapers, providing mothers in Bhutan with a low-cost, chemical-free alternative to imported disposable diapers. The stories of both Karma and Doriri are inspiring examples of women-led small-scale enterprises that provide and directly promote individual choices that can collectively contribute to impactful change. They illustrate how at the individual level, we can all promote lifestyles for the environment, as well as, in the words of Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi at COP26 in Glasgow, quote, mindful and deliberate utilization instead of mindless and destructive consumption, unquote. Prime Minister Modi's lifestyle for the environment deeply resonates with Bhutan's own development paradigm of gross national happiness, which measures progress and development in terms beyond traditional metrics of growth. GNH is a holistic approach to development that seeks to achieve a harmonious balance between economic and material growth on one hand, and the spiritual, cultural, and environmental needs of the individual and larger society on the other. Sustainability is at the heart of Bhutan's development efforts and recognizes that sustainable consumption and production is essential to sustainable development. Excellencies, before concluding, let me recall that earlier this month, we observed International Women's Day to highlight efforts underway to create a world that is equitable, diverse, and inclusive. AIWEFA's work focusing on education and employment of women contributes significantly to women's empowerment and gender advancement, and serves as a shining example of the impact of civil society in South Asia and beyond. Clearly, at the global level, we have to do more and we have to do better if we are to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Meaningful and sustainable development will be possible only when women and girls can enjoy equal rights and opportunities to contribute as full members of society. And they must be empowered to do so, both in the private and professional spheres, including in leadership positions, without fear, both online and off. And finally, noting that yesterday marked the 10th International Day of Happiness, I believe I would not be wrong in saying that achieving this end would undoubtedly elevate the global happiness quotient significantly. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. May I request Ms. Rita Menon, Vice President AIWEFA, to deliver the concluding remarks.
On behalf of AIWEFA, in partnership with the On behalf of AIWEFA, in partnership with the Permanent Mission of India to the UN at New York, I convey my deep and sincere appreciation to the panelists who have participated in this side event, A World We Women and Girls Want, Lifestyle for the Environment, in accordance with the CSW66 priority theme of empowerment of women and girls in the context of climate change, environment, and disaster risk reduction policies and programs. The COVID-19 pandemic forced borders to close and people to self-isolate. Regrettably, it is still continuing. It has proved that the welfare of individuals is inseparable from the welfare of women, and that greater collective action is needed for progress. We need to work together, a point reiterated by all our esteemed panelists. Women play a critical role at managing natural resources at family and community levels, and they are most affected by environmental degradation. Management of agricultural terrain and forests, water and food are challenges faced largely by women, the closest to nature and the keepers of biodiversity. Our eminent speakers have spoken of the myriad challenges before women and girls. India has put climate change at the center of its policies in 2021. Moreover, much of the current flagship programs are centered on women. India is at the forefront of women's participation and preservation of women's rights, as put forward very eloquently by His Excellency Ambassador Tirumurti. He gave examples of UN action in the restoration of women's rights in Afghanistan and the contribution of women of India in peacekeeping contingents throughout the world. He recalled the luminaries from India who laid footprints in the United Nations and the commitment by India for policies for an environmentally friendly lifestyle and the concept of gender equity, cutting across all progress. Minister Smriti Irani detailed the Honorable Prime Minister's vision for life, a coalition across the world for mindful utilization of resources. She stressed that India walks the talk by providing clean fuel, reduction in pollution-related deaths, reduction of emission, formulation of agricultural practices, and extension frameworks suited to women. She spoke of natural farming for sustainable agriculture and stressed that $6.7 billion were being invested by India for the provision of clean drinking water and allied activities, and the democratization of decisions by ensuring 50% of women representatives in water and sanitation committees. She talked of the importance of solar power, the creativity in India on a range of subjects such as women entrepreneurs being at the forefront of fashion, e-scooters, and the rapid increase in the sale and requirement of e-vehicles in India, all pointing in the direction of achieving the Prime Minister's vision for a clean India and India at the center of all policies relating to women and a clean environment. We had the Undersecretary of the United Nations, Ms. Sima Sam Bahus, speak of women as forebearers of change, entrepreneurship, political outcomes of women's participation being positive, and to a great extent being a function of the clean environment. In her recorded speech, she stressed the major actions and commitments of United Nations women to put a gender lens on all activities. She lauded India in its actions being taken to provide an equal working field for women in several spheres, and said that the Indian programs could be a lodestar for programs in the rest of the world. We had the next speaker, Her Excellency Carolyn Rodrigues-Biscuit, talking about the progress in the advancement of women and girls, need to upscale best practices, and the 4 areas in which in Guyana there was extreme stress being laid: education, with no discrimination in education between males and females, more women graduating in universities, coverage of deep rural areas, the efforts in economic empowerment as a second tool, and a determination of gender equality, skill development by an innovative network and business incubator, and the approach of a holistic environment for women at the decision-making level. The third pillar which she stressed was political empowerment for development of the country, women at the backbone of political movement, and 30% of women representation from both major parties. Her Excellency Rabab Fatima spoke of cultural and institutional barriers to women's development gains. Climate change and environmental degradation affected women and girls adversely, but they are fortunately the first responders. She called for a gender responsible legislation and political action the world over, and detailed Bangladesh's action on gender related strategies for climate change from 2013, cyclone preparedness programs, women at the center of such programs, and stated that her programs of the country were lauded by the United Nations for its coastal surveillance programs and for safety of the coast. She spoke of solar energy development and clean and fuel-based cookers, and was delighted to know that the region was taking the lead, and a lot of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision is reflected in some of the actions that have happened in Bangladesh. She stressed the holistic approach, as did all our speakers. Her Excellency Doma Tshering talked about Bhutan as a carbon negative nation, but the triple whammy of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic was a wake-up call for the whole world. Gender differences and disparities are visible even in a country where the happiness index is extolled as the best in the world. But climate change, debilitation of the environment, which has affected India very adversely, has also affected Bhutan. However, women and girls hold the keys to management of climate change, risk preparation, and economic progress of the rural sector. She spoke of gross national happiness having great synergy with the vision of life enunciated by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India. While sincerely thanking the panelists, His Excellency Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti, Permanent Representative of India to the UN, Ms. Smriti Zubin Irani, Honorable Minister of Women and Child Development, Government of India, for her keynote address, Ms. Sima Sami Bahus, UN Under Secretary General and UN Women Executive Director, Her Excellency Ambassador Caroline Rodriguez Burkett, Permanent Representative of Cooperatives, Republic of Guyana to the UN, Her Excellency Ambassador Rabab Fatima, Permanent Representative of Bangladesh to the United Nations, Her Excellency Ambassador Doma Tshering, Permanent Representative of the Kingdom of Bhutan to the UN. I especially thank the Permanent Mission of UN at New York and Ambassador Tirumurti in particular for partnering with AIWEFA for the second time for the side event at this most significant conference at CSW66. I also thank AIWEFA's organizing committee, the technical team of AIWEFA, interns from the Lady Irwin College, Delhi, and significantly the UN Web TV. We've had a number of quotations from eminent persons. I would just like to round off today's session with a vision of Mahatma Gandhi, who saw women not as objects of reform, but as self-conscious objects, and he included them amongst the masses in the most natural way. He further says, I am uncompromising in the matter of women's rights. In my opinion, she should labor under no legal disability, nor not suffered by man. I should treat daughters and sons on an equal footing of perfect equality. Mahatma Gandhi's vision for balance in the climate, his vision for women and girls, and his women for equity will always serve as a lodestar for all of us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending this side event and giving us the privilege of your very, very informed views about the subject. Thank you and namaskar.